Okay, we are live again. Let's see. Cool. Testing. Okay, I can write. That is a positive thing. It's been a while since I've live streamed, so I'm just making sure that everything works. Okay. I wonder if the audio works. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? What if I unplug this? Can you hear me? Okay. I think it should be working. Okay. We will just roll from here. If you can hear me, type 1 in the chat. Can you guys hear me? Or is the microphone not working? Let's see. I'll try to plug this in again. Use with this. And if so, I'll just roll with the punches. Okay, I hope that audio is being recorded. If not, that'll be really sad. But let's just slowly test things until 10:15. I'm gonna turn this around. Look, it's me. Let's see. Okay, so the audio should be working now. I unmuted and muted again, but I can't see it on my side over here or hear it. Let's look it up on YouTube. So if I press this over here, can I hear myself? That's the question. Yay! Okay, so audio is working. Wait. Let me turn that. Nice, nice. Okay. Awesome. Cool. Oh. Nice. Okay. So, welcome. It's been a while since I've live streamed, and I'm kind of excited to get back into it because YouTube has kind of allowed me to live stream now a bit better because it doesn't like clutter my content. It has a different like tab for it, for shorts, for live streaming, and for the long form content that I really want to focus on. So I thought, why not just pump out some live streams every now and then when I get some interesting coffees. And this time around, We got quite a few actually. So let's see if I can show you these properly. Like so. Yeah. In a nutshell, I got these 3 samples from Sut Taylor, and they are 3 of the same beans from Panama, Finca Deborah. And the cool thing is that all of them are processed differently. So we have a natural process right over here, and then we have a inoculated natural. So I had to do some research on the 2 last ones here. And inoculated natural is when you add something extra to the fermentation process, like some yeast or something, to increase the funk of the bean when it is drying on the bed. So this is inoculated process. And then we got the nitrogen anaerobic process. And this one over here, from what I understand, they put it in these big vats, they suck out the oxygen, pump it in with CO2, and this is supposed to compress the flavor in each like individual bean to make it even more like funky and flavorful. So even though the natural process is pretty funky in itself, these 2 other ones, the inoculated process and the anaerobic nitrogen processed one that I'm holding right now, kind of like amplifies that intense funk aspect of the beans. So I'm kind of excited to try those because I haven't tried either process, and maybe it's something really awesome. So we'll see how that goes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and taste every single brew, or bean actually, through this process over here. And here, let me show you what I got up over here. And this is pretty much the sliver brew that I like doing for any new bag of beans. So I kind of like just brewing a pour over and kind of just slivering out different ratios and then tasting the coffee and trying to figure out what the best ratio is for that bean. And it's a great way to just like quickly dial in the beans if you have a very small amount. So these bags over here, they're literally just 40 grams of coffee. So if I mess around with it too much, I won't be able to really capitalize on the goodness of the beans. So I have to dial it in pretty quickly. And I'm doing that by using the sliver method that I really enjoy using with new beans. So what we'll do is we'll first go with the, let's see, this guy over here, the natural process. And then we'll pick one of the other ones, and we'll just go through the 3 beans and taste them. So let's just jump into it and begin. I just want to say hi to Faye and David. Nice to see you guys in chat. And it's been a long time, David. I'm glad to see you here. I saw Faye just the other day, as in yesterday. So that's great too. Okay, so I got my water boiling. I'm gonna grind some beans, look at them, and all that jazz. Let's begin. So first, let's cut this open. Let me go and get a scissor. And hello to you too, Joanne. So let's begin. Cutting out the natural process geisha here. I'm glad to hear, George. I'm really happy that my content is giving back to the coffee community, because the coffee community has given so much to me, and I love just sharing knowledge. So you are welcome. If you ever have any questions, you know where to find me. If you have any like video ideas, just toss them in and I'll check them out. So I'm gonna pour the beans over here so you can look at it with me. So just the scent itself, it doesn't smell too special right now. We'll see what happens when we grind it. Let's pour it all over here. It looks like a very light roast going on. That's pretty much what I expected from these beans. If they roasted it way too dark, it would just overshadow anything that the process would infuse into the beans. Yeah, it looks great. So let's measure out 10.7 grams of this and begin brewing. Let me lower the camera so you can see the setup down here. Like so. Okay, so I'm measuring out 10.7 grams. And I'm doing 10.7 grams because I'm going off of the 1.1 to 1 to 14 brewing ratio to begin with. And I just divided, and I just calculated that that's how many grinds I need to use to get 140 grams of water in the brew. So there we go. 10.7 grams of coffee. It's very little. Like, the brew that I'm making right now is going to be super small. And yeah. Today I'll be brewing with the Hario V60. This guy over here. One of these guys. So I don't have the smaller filter for the version 1, but I do have the bigger filter for version 2. So I'll be using this guy. And I'll be using the James Hoffman technique where I'll be doing a single pour. Just because the amount of liquid that I'm using is so little, I need to have a technique that's not too technical in its process. Because if I started using something like the Tetsukasuya process, where I pulse poured, the intervals would be so small that it would be hard to like really control and deal with. So let's begin. I'll grind these beans. Okay, so my grinder kind of eats up 0.7 of a gram, so I'm going to add just a bit more. Nice. And let's see. We got our V60 filters. I guess it would. I could also like cut it actually, which would make it better. So why don't we do that? So the charm with the smaller V60 that David is referring to is that when you're using such a small dose of coffee, the pour height really matters, because if you pour from really high up, the velocity of the liquid will just like splash away all of the... It'll just create a lot of kind of like agitation and variance in your brew. So I will take that option and I'll do some arts and crafts for it now. And there we go, a version 1 filter. I'm also looking for the ruler. There we go. I also like just showing this on stream. Whenever I'm like doing these brews over here, it's really hard to gauge grind size. But I'll do something like this. We'll kind of just see where the grind size is over here. So looking at the grind size, I'm grinding kind of coarsely, medium coarse-ish. I would say 1,100 microns going on over here. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. So it's around, yet again, medium coarseness according to the ruler, but in micron settings, it's around 1,000 to 1,100. Like so. So the reason I'm going pretty coarse is that I'm trying to taste a lot of different brewing ratios. So I'm gonna test out brewing ratios. Oh, it's interesting that you can't see me. I'll get down over here. So the reason I'm grinding pretty coarse is that I want to test out all the different brewing ratios between 1 to 14 and 1 to 18. And what I've realized is that by grinding a bit coarser, I can just kind of like hit that whole range and experience that aspect of the technique that I'm using right now. So I'll be tasting the brewing ratio 1 to 14, and then I'll be tasting 1 to 15, 16, 17, and 18 through this salami technique that I'll be using. So you'll see what happens. So let's go and get our hot water and begin. Okay, fold our filter, like so. Get a cup to brew in, like so. Preheat. Toss that out. Toss in our grinds, like so. Make a small divot. Here, I'll bring it closer to you. So on the grind size note, Jazzy, like I think down the road I would probably make it a bit finer just because it is a light roast, and I would also try to nail down a like better recipe for it. But for this technique over here, I like doing it slightly coarser so that I can hit that 1 to 18 and even 1 to 19 brewing ratio if I want to taste it and just try it out with that type of a body. So let's tear that, like so. And the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pour 30 grams of water, and then we're gonna fill it up all the way to 140 grams of liquid. That will be a 1 to 14 brewing ratio. So start the timer so we know what's happening. 30 grams. I've started to not stir the bloom anymore. I kind of just swirl it. And then we wait. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to... So you can see the timer. 30 seconds have passed. So we're gonna $140. Give it a slight swirl. So it's smelling kind of like brightish. Bright as in like skittly. But I'm just way more curious as to how it tastes. So once this has fully gone through, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour out 4 more segments equaling the different brewing ratios. So I'll add 14 grams in here, 14 grams in here, 14 and 14 in those smaller cups. So it's getting really close. I'll maybe show it like this. Like so. Okay. I'm so bad at aiming this camera when I can't see it. There we go. And then I'll move this aside. I'll take another cup. Ooh, hardly fits. Tare, and then I'll add 14 grams of water. Ah, a bit too much. That's totally fine. It's also slightly crooked. Yeah, it looks slightly under extracted, but also this is yet again just a 1 to 14 brewing ratio. And this over here, if I add that to the liquid, it will be 1 to 15. And then now, doing this over here. Ooh, 14 on the dot. So I do agree that the initial liquid with the 1 to 14 brewing ratio looks kind of under extracted, and I am assuming it is under extracted just because I'm using such a coarse grind size and a low brewing ratio. But throughout the experiment, we'll be adding these small slivers to allow us to taste the brewing ratio rainbow. Oh, I didn't tear. Around there. Brewing ratio rainbow. And we'll see how that one is. So I don't know how much it started off with, but hopefully that is around 14 grams. Probably a bit more. Okay, so we'll just make a mental note that sliver number 3 is just a bit more, probably. Like so. So how's everyone doing? Let's see, Siddharth. Have you tried any Indian coffee beans? I think I actually have some green coffee beans from India that I need to roast, but I haven't tried any Indian coffee beans that I usually buy. But is there anything you recommend, as in varietal or specific roastery from a that kind of like represents Indian coffee really well? I'm always down to try new beans, new brewing methods if it's within my means, and so on. Okay, so just like that, we have poured out the different slivers. We'll move the scale away. Like so. Let me just take this filter. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we'll just taste the 1 to 14, and then if we think it's too under extracted, we'll add the 1 to 15, and we'll just keep on doing that process all the way up to 1 to 18, and we'll see if we do need to maybe make some drastic changes to the grind size. But if not, we'll maybe find a good cup within this range of brewing ratios that we can work with for these beans over here. So let's see. I'll give that a stir. And cheers. Okay. So it's not as crazily under extracted that I was expecting. But it also is lacking a lot of the flavors that I'm kind of wanting to be in there. Like initially when I was like just chatting with you guys in the chat over here and looking at the grind size and stuff, I was thinking, oh man, this would be like so intense and sour on the side, but it's kind of just more like a slight sour sharpness, but more like just lacking in flavor. So I feel like we should just add the second one over here. Like so. And it's lacking because I think it hasn't like extracted enough yet again, which is the case. But I was also kind of expecting it to be a bit more sharp in its acidity, but it was kind of like just more dulling. This is the 1 to 15 brewing ratio. So just adding that extra sliver of liquid, the mouthfeel became way better. So with the 1 to 14 brewing ratio cup, it didn't really have any like redeeming qualities in my opinion. It was just like for I could probably pick better words, but like brown water. But by adding just even that sliver of liquid over here, the mouthfeel became way better. I'm still looking for the kind of like flavor notes that I want, but I think the mouthfeel, in my opinion, like just increased tenfold by just that small sliver because it lacked. It was a bit too tight, the first one, and then the extra liquid just opened it up a bit. Okay, let's try adding this one. This is the next sliver, making it a 1 to 16 brewing ratio cup. Okay, so let's see. I believe Blue Tokai coffee roasters are doing a great job in India. Their line of products is quite versatile, but I don't know if they ship internationally. An interesting and unique coffee from India would be Monsoon Malabar. Please do read about it. The processing is quite unique. Yeah, I'll check it out. So I think Asia is really like underrepresented in North American coffee. Just like when I was doing the osmotic flow video, I feel like there was just so much not negativity but ignorance around the ways India, China kind of like deal with coffee and how they create their cups. And I'm excited if I can get my hands on some high-end Indian coffee to play around with. So the body is becoming more softer, and flavors are kind of like slowly coming out of the coffee the further I go out into the brewing ratios. I think that so far, every cup that I've added has made the cup better, which just represents that initially it was quite under extracted. But what I am looking for is, I don't know, like initially my mind was all about the crazy acidities and brightnesses, but just this natural processed one that we're looking at right over here, it's not as funky as I expected it, which is kind of good because that means that the two other beans have a lot of potential for a funk increase as we brew those. Okay, let's add the next sliver. Cheers. So with this sliver over here, the 1 to 17, I felt like the mouthfeel kind of took a small hit. So there's a bit more of a raspiness going on. Like a drying kind of like sensation on my tongue. And I don't think the amount of extra flavor or like notes kind of like revealed itself in the cup. So probably I would play around if I stuck with this grind size with the 1 to 16 to 17 brewing ratio if I wanted to stay over here and kind of like balance the recipe accordingly here. So looking at our grind size, for example, what I would probably play around with if I wanted to brew another cup with this would be to decrease and make the grind size finer and probably play around with the 17, 18, and even 19 brewing ratio just to see how that goes. Let's take a sip of that again. But it's still a really nice cup. Like, I still prefer the mouthfeel that I was getting from the 1 to 16 brewing ratio cup, but the flavor is also very delicate and soft with this ratio over here. If I would classify like tasting notes, let's go over to our tasting note chart over here. Da, 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 da. Let's see. So I like process of elimination. So I didn't taste any like bright berry acidities. I would probably say more like a more muted acidity like raisin or prune. Did I see any like or taste any bright fruit acidities? Not really. But I would say that I would get more of like a muted citrus. So kind of like a rind even of sorts going on. And did it have any kind of like other aspects over here? No, I would probably say yet again it was more of a muted taste with maybe some, like mostly prunes and raisins going on, but also probably some kind of like nutty tastes in there too. But yeah, it didn't have like a high acidity going on. It was a very muted acidity. Nice body though, but still muted acidity. Okay, so yet again, I'm just gonna add this for science because that's what I do. So this would be a 1 to 18 ratio. And keep in mind that as I am drinking from the cup of coffee, the liquid goes down so that these aren't the exact representation of what would be happening if you brewed a 1 to 15, 16, 17 cup. But it's a good kind of like benchmark and kind of like it points you in the right direction of this is kind of where a balanced cup is and this is where you should be playing around with your recipe. So just keeping a mental note for myself, the next time I would brew a cup with this bean over here, I would probably grind it a bit finer and I would play around with the probably 17 to 18 brewing ratio. The tasting note chart, I bought it from the SCA store. Like I got a PDF of it, and then I just printed it online through a printing service. So the tasting note chart is actually printed on canvas, which is pretty cool. So I can like literally put it on here and spill coffee on it if I wanted to, and it would be a-okay. Okay, let's taste this. Yeah, more of the dryness that I was expecting. Not really tasty, but you know what? I would see this as just for someone who doesn't like a lot of flavor in their coffee. They just want to like have that dry, intense raspiness going on. And it works for some taste buds, but it's for sure not what this coffee wants to showcase because right now it's just over extracted, dry, raspy, bitter. Okay, that was the first one. Let us go over to one of these right now. And in the meantime, I need to boil this water again. BRB. And we'll do a quick intermission. So a 1 minute cleanup intermission on my end. Feel free to get your own coffee if you can or have the time to. And I'll be back in literally a minute. BRB. And what I'm going to do is I'm also going to grind it slightly finer yet again, because as many of you in the comments section noted, it's a really light roast coffee. And we should be playing around with finer grinds because light roasts are pretty hard and you kind of need to extract a lot from them because they are that dense compared to dark roasts, which is a bit more brittle and creates more fines which then are easier to extract. So let's change the grind size and aim for around like 800 of a micron setting. Okay, we are back. So now let's try one of the more funky ones. So we got the inoculated one and the anaerobic nitrogen process one. I think both of these will be quite interesting because they add a lot of funk. The one that I've not seen ever, I've never like literally tasted a coffee bean that has been processed like this, but I haven't seen a inoculated natural before. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try that one last, and we'll do the nitrogen anaerobic one before that. So let's cut that open. And I'll pour it right on here. I should maybe compare this to the other beans, the natural process ones, because they kind of look a bit different, even though they're processed the same, or processed different. Yeah, no worries. So we got 3 different beans going on. The first one we tasted was the natural process. The one we're tasting right now is the nitrogen anaerobic process. And this is pretty much when you put it into a container, suck out the oxygen, pump it in with CO2, where it's supposed to kind of like compress the flavors more into the beans because of the pressure. And then we have a inoculated natural, which is, I believe, I looked it up, you add some type of a funk to the processing so that it kind of like creates more funky bacteria. Kind of like putting a small piece of yeast or something into the bed of the coffee so that it like adds that extra funk to the coffee. Okay, let's look at these two. So I can already tell, first of all, that it looks like the nitrogen anaerobic one has way more like broken pieces compared to the natural one over here. Maybe it's because the processing just puts a bigger toll on the bean. But overall, they look pretty similar. Let's see. Yeah, I know, the inoculated one sounds pretty interesting, which is why I'm leaving it to the last brew. Okay, so we're just gonna continue the process. So I'll move the camera down like so, and we'll do a 1 to 7 or 10.7 here. And we also know that we want to dose a bit of beans to purge the grinder. And I'm also gonna check the grind size. So I've decreased it a bit. We'll see how that goes. so. Yeah, like, I can even tell in the bag of beans over here that the amount of chaff and like just breakage of the bean is way different from the natural one over here. So the process is really doing something with the integrity of the bean that causes it to, I guess, shed its chaff or just break apart a bit more. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just grind this. Actually, let's look at the grind size first. So I don't know if you can see this. I didn't change it enough, I think. It's more like 900 to 1,000 now, looking at the small bits over here. And the overall kind of like sizing of it. So I'll make it just a bit finer again. We'll aim for, yet again, 800 micron size. Like so. And we'll go with that. Nice. And then let's check the sizing of this. Yeah, I would say it's closer to 800 now, but still like low 900s-ish going on. But still around where we want it, which is good. Okay, so first let's cut our filter. Yet again, do some arts and crafts going on here. Excellent. We got our cup. We got that. I'll get the boiling water. And we got these. Just make sure that they're fully dry. Like so. And hold that, flip, put in, preheat. And yet again, I'm doing the exact same process as last time, but yet again now with a slightly finer grind size and a different bean. There. 10.7, perfect. There. Get the timer on. And shake that out. Make a small divot. Turn on the timer, and let's begin. That as well. Okay, so it's already smelling a bit more funky going on here. So what I consider funky is like Skittles or Sour Patch Kids. Kind of like a candy brightness going on. That is what I consider a funkiness. Like a really bright acidity, even like pineapple would be funky. And on the other side, you got like more calmer acidities, like an apple or like a pear. Like so. I'll bring the camera over. We'll look at the bed. I'll remove the scissor because that looks scary. Oh, nice. Well, who knows? Maybe we'll find some pineapple here. Okay. Yeah, that's true actually. So whenever people add a lot of like milk to light roasts, it just doesn't work. Like the flavor profile of acidity-based coffees where it's like bright on like pineapple, papaya, or like kiwi or something. Like it just doesn't work with milk. Usually darker roasts are ideal for that. Like medium to dark roast at least. So now we add another sliver. Actually, let's use the same system as last time and do the glass one first. Like so. Yeah, it even smells like way more candy-like compared to the natural process one. The grind size is also probably a factor here, where we are grinding a bit finer, allowing a bit more extraction to occur. So, personally, I actually really enjoy live streams. I probably can't do it too often, but like maybe once a week on the weekend to just like chat and have a good time is my ideal live stream schedule. What do you guys think of live streams? Is it something you want? Is it something that is interesting? Is it something that is not wanted? I guess I'm, oh, too much. I guess I'm talking to or preaching to the choir here because you guys showed up and are here in the live stream. So obviously you want some live stream action. But yet again, I'm actually pretty happy that YouTube is more consciously making sure that the three different like avenues of creation, so long form video, shorts, and live stream, they're just a bit more divided in the channels. You don't need to like make a separate channel or anything to do those things without annoying your viewers. Yeah, seeing the process live is fun in my opinion, and like no cuts, no nothing, just like going at it. A lot of the times the content that we find online is just so quick cut, perfect, to the point that you don't get the whole process or that picture going on. Okay. Here we go again. So yet again, this is the nitrogen anaerobic natural processed. We'll swirl that. This is the 1:14 brewing ratio. So even just this one over here has way more, like, not super bright acidities yet, but more acidities in it, which is great. Like, it's making me want to, like, the sides of my cheeks are kind of like salivating a bit. But I do think that it's still a bit too tight. So adding these extra slivers will hopefully open it up and make it better. But I would not be sad if I got this as a pour over from a cafe. It's a pretty solid cup already at a 1:14 brewing ratio, just because it has some interesting acidities. The under extractedness isn't that prominent, and I could kind of point towards the under extractedness being a part of the brew, but I have a feeling that it's still on the under extracted side. So by adding these extra slivers, maybe we can highlight the more intended acidity that these beans want you to find. Let's see, Tiny Trifle. I like live streams, but the time zones are hell on my sleep schedule. Ooh, I'm so sorry. No, especially since it's midnight in Singapore, but noon in America. Yeah, time zones are a tough thing. I probably wouldn't be able to do this later in the day just because I try to always have my coffee intake early in the morning / afternoon. So the VODs would be probably the best option for you, but then you can't interact, which is sad. Let's add that. But yeah, time zones are always a tough thing. Actually, I read up on how a live streamer actually moved to a different location in the world to make sure that he was closer to the time zones of the majority of his viewers. So yeah, time zones are such a hassle to deal with when it comes to live streaming. This is the 1:15 brewing ratio. Okay, so it's getting better, meaning this one has a better body going on. The acidity is slightly more muted compared to the first cup, but the mouthfeel is a way better redeeming quality in the cup here that I would want as a cup of coffee. I kind of miss those initial acidities though, the intense brightness, but maybe it's because my initial expectations of these beans were like extremely bright and intense. But so far, I've been finding more good qualities in actually the mouthfeel that I'm getting from these beans. And it's like very silky, silky smooth. Okay, let's add the next sliver. So this is 14, 15, 16. Okay. So as I am tasting this one, the mouthfeel just slightly toned down a bit. But then again, like another kind of like flavor popped up in the back of my mouth over here. So there was a change in the way that the amount of body that was in the cup is there, but also a increase in flavor. And is it a good flavor? I think it was a. Let's try it again. Yeah, it's a good flavor. It's like a muted kind of like acidity, but an acidity nonetheless that I kind of enjoy. And yeah, I'm really digging the silky body that this bean is providing here. Let's add the next sliver. Okay. It's now starting to show a bit more of a drying quality in the cup. But I do think that the qualities here are still great and tasty. But the aftertaste that I'm getting is more of a raspy mouth versus the 15 and 16 brewing ratio. I was tasting more like a salivating aftertaste, but now that I'm going a bit higher, it's more of like a drying aftertaste. But the mouthfeel is still nice and silky. Only the aftertaste and the after kind of like state that the liquid leaves my mouth is kind of drying and yeah, not the best. But for science it again, we're gonna add the last sliver. Do the pineapple notes in the coffee make your tongue itchy like when you eat pineapple? Good question. I've had notes of pineapple in my coffee before. It's never made my tongue itchy. It's been more of just like a bright acidity that tastes tropical that I can then link to pineapple. But when you are talking about pineapple in particular, I know my dad does this thing where he cuts the pineapple and I believe he washes it or rubs salt in it and then washes away the salt to remove some of those acidities that causes the itchiness and like intensity. So maybe it's more about the way that the pineapple is being cut and prepared that can minimize the itchiness for you. Maybe it's like an overkill of pineapple. Who knows? But no, pineapple notes have never made my tongue itchy in coffee. So interestingly enough, I like the body of this range over here a bit better, but the acidities that I was getting on the lower end of the ratios is what I enjoy the most. So even though this cup over here is kind of pleasant, it has a good mouthfeel, it just doesn't have the acidities that I wanted from a cup like this. So I would actually play around with like 1 to 15, 1 to 16 brewing ratio with these beans over here to kind of like highlight the acidities a bit more and bring that out. Comparing this to the natural one, I feel like this one is a bit more interesting. And interesting as in like more flavors in the cup. Do I like it better? To be honest, I kind of like the first one better. It was a bit more of a neutral cup that had a bit of acidity, but better mouthfeel. And the thing is like, this tastes different, but is the different better or better tasting than the other one? And I would say, personal preference, no. I kind of like the natural process one better than the nitrogen anaerobic process one. Okay, so we have one more bag of beans to go through. Yet again, we're gonna do a quick 1-minute intermission for me to clean this up and make sure that everything's good. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we're back again. We have one more to go. This is the inoculated natural. And yet again, from my understanding, is that they add some type of like a yeast or something to the processing so that it kind of like creates a bit more bacteria during that process to then add more funk to the bean. So my expectation is that this will be pretty funky. Who knows? So far my expectations have been thwarted throughout the brews, but we'll see what happens over here. Maybe I should go in with 0 expectations next time. So let's cut this open. Yeah, yet again, this is another one where just the shaft of the bean is just going rampant in the bag. So I feel like both of the two last ones, the nitrogen processed one and the inoculated one, just has a different way of dealing with chaff. And yet again, chaff is like the skin of the bean, kind of like the husk, that usually kind of like falls off during the roasting process. Beans look good. It's like the same type of roast level as the two other ones. There you go. Let's grind these. I'll take a bit, purge the grinder. And we'll measure out our coffee. And really, every bean matters when the amount of coffee you get is literally just 40 grams in a bag. So, 10.7, perfect. Okay. Let's get the boiling water and let's get cracking. Cut our filter. Like so. Get our cup. Lower. Preheat. Turn scale. Yeah, 10.7. Like so. Tear. And let's begin. So this is for sure one of my longer live streams because I'm going through 3 different coffees and not just one. But I think moving forwards in the future, I kind of want to just do one brew and kind of just chat with you guys. I think that's the goal with live streams, to just have a good time with people, see what people are brewing, get some rad coffee suggestions like the Indian coffee, and so on. And also just court any questions that people have. I feel like a lot of the times it's easier to ask things in a live stream than in a comment section. Like so. Looking good. Let me just take a sip of water to purge my mouth a bit. Like so. Move that aside. Add the 14-gram sliver. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but a vacuum cleaner just got turned on. That's sadly enough out of my control. Like so. I think it's really fascinating how just processing the coffee a bit differently changes the final cup that much, because it's the same bean, it's the same roaster, it's the same roast level, everything is the same, but just the way that the bean has been dried out during that process is pretty fascinating. And it's one of those things where you like the detail, or the level of detail that needs to be kind of like thought of when you're doing these things is massive. Like, if one small change in the process just tweaks the cup that much, then you have to make sure that the whole like kind of like process in general, like the way that you manufacture, grow the beans, treat the coffee beans, even ship them around and roast them and so on. You have to be so meticulous to keep a consistent bean going on. So for all the roasters out there that have like a lineup of coffee beans that are kind of like their staple, it's pretty interesting how they manage to just keep it that consistent throughout many months, years, and so on. And I've seen a lot of people that have like specific kind of like blends going on as a roaster. It's better to use a blend because you can tweak the tasting profile a bit better when you're mixing the different ratios of beans and stuff. So look at this, the sun came out. Nice. So even though a single origin really highlights the whole process and the uniqueness of a bean, as a roaster, it's also kind of a headache because you are trying to make something that is consistent for your consumer. And there we have it, our last cup. And it's getting there. Like so. Okay, so here we got the last brew of the day. It's the Inoculated Natural. Let's just get tasting. Already I can taste that it's way more flavorful, like bright notes going on in there, and kind of like more allure and excitement. Let's see. Jazzy, are you able to consistently recreate a roast level taste when you roast your own coffee? That's one reason I haven't gotten into roasting my own. So much more complications. So, fun fact, I've never been able to replicate a roast level between brews or between roasts, but I kind of do see it as just creating a good roast, you know? Because with the setups that I have a popcorn popper and a heat gun and bread machine system. It doesn't have the same amount of temperature control, amount of detail, and kind of like profiles that allow me to create a consistent roast month after month. But it does allow me to create a good roast that is unique on its own. So yeah, the consistency is extremely hard to do with home roasters, unless you have like things like the Ikawa, for example, home roasting machines that are more meant to keep a specific profile going on. But I would say just enjoy that journey of tasting different types of roast levels. Try one with a bit of a darker roast, try one with a bit of lighter roast, and treat it more as like an experiment and playground than consistently getting the same cup of coffee month in, month out. So far, I like this. It's a bit tight, like the mouthfeel is lacking, but the acidities that are in there is more than the other ones. How about deep frying your coffee beans? Uh, I saw that video. I don't know. If it works, it works. I would have to try and taste the beans myself to really understand if it is a viable option. If it is, then yeah, who knows? We'll get deep fried coffee beans down the road that will just take over the market, hopefully. Let's add the sliver over here. I do think that it's interesting how much we are just trying to do things differently. You know, there's so many things like, okay, let's try deep frying the coffee. Let's try the anaerobic process. Let's try kind of like I don't know, brewing with like this weird brewing technique that I just made up and think makes a lot of different things. And there's also a lack of just like bringing it back to the roots, you know, bringing it back to like the way coffee was brewed, let's say like 20 years ago, or even just like 100 years ago even. Like there's a lot of exploration, but there's not a lot of looking back at old techniques to see how they did it. Because I feel like we just think that we need to push the boundaries further and further, but also just looking more inwards and seeing how they did it in the past, learning from it, and just looking at it, because I learned a lot from the osmotic flow journey that I did on dark roasts, different techniques and stuff, and that technique has been around for years, you know. But yeah, let's see. New genre of coffee. You'll be able to buy specific oils for deep frying different coffees in your shops now. Yeah, you know what? I would not be surprised if deep frying became a thing. You would have like a Kickstarter soon about a deep frying specific coffee roaster that you could maybe infuse some coffee oils in, you know. Do you want some pineapple in your coffee? So I like the acidity of this one the most so far compared to the two other cups. It's still not the intense brightness of acidity that I was expecting, but it's more like a kind of like a slight berry acidity, slight muted berry acidity. So maybe like a dried berry of sorts. Let's add the next sliver, so 14, 15, 16 going on. And as for wok fried, I've already done cast iron fried, so I know that wok fried will probably work. I don't know what the strategy would be though, because don't you need to like add a lot of oils to the wok to make it like work? So yeah, there's just a lot of ways to deal with coffee. And next thing, we're gonna like dehydrate coffee beans, right? That's gonna work. Put it in the dehydrator for like 2 days, and then it'll come out like a shriveled, like blonde roast that you need to like crush to fines and then extract. Who knows? I kind of want to try that now. So far, this cup has had a great mouthfeel, nice and silky, and a nice acidity going on. So I think that this one kind of like hits two things that I'm really happy about here. The taste itself though is it could be a bit more nuanced and specific, but maybe we can get that in the later brewing ratios. But so far the acidity is great. I like the mouthfeel going on. And to this point, I think that this is actually the best cup out of the three beans. Just because it has so many interesting characteristics that I can latch onto. Great mouthfeel and also a solid acidity going on. So more tasting notes start to showcase itself the further up you go into the brewing ratio because there's more clarity in the cup. So you will get more tasting notes, but you'll also lose some of the qualities of lower brewing ratios, like the mouthfeel. And I think that even though it's a bit more prominent with its tasting notes, the lack of, or the lower amount of body that I'm getting with this cup over here is not worth it. What's that, the last one? So the same criticism here. The body is just like getting more and more shunned to the back. Slightly more focus on and clarity on the tasting notes, but the tasting notes weren't that interesting to begin with, so it's kind of like shining a spotlight on a mediocre dancer. But I liked the acidity and the mouthfeel that I was getting on the lower brewing ratios here, more than the clarity that I'm getting of the tasting notes up here. But overall, I think this is actually the best process of the three. If I would rank them, I would probably put the Inoculated one as number one. And then I like the mouthfeel and just standard classic tastes that I was getting from the natural process over here. And then I would put the nitrogen anaerobic one last. And that is it for that stream. Thanks for joining me. It's been fun. I'll probably aim to do some streams like once every week on the weekend when I have time. Just to brew, have a good time, chat, see how you guys are doing, and just, just maintain the community that's here in a different way. I am still posting shorts. I think that is an interesting avenue that I want to explore more. I am still posting long form videos. So I just posted a video recently about reusing a filter 13 times. That was an interesting video that I probably want to explore more down the road, maybe. We'll see. And I'm also really focusing on just finishing that book that I am aiming for, because I think that a lot of the knowledge for basic coffee brewers has already been covered in my channel, but I kind of want to just take it all and make it into a nice nugget so that whenever someone new comes to the channel and they don't want to go through a big backlog of videos, then they can just get a book and get the best summary of it all in one small nugget. So yeah, thank you all for coming, and let's see the last comments over here. David, cheers. Thanks for doing this. Missed having these live streams, couldn't engage much today. Multitasking, hopefully more next time. You know what? I appreciate you just being in the chat. You're for sure one of the OGs here, and I am glad that you're here. Jazzy, is that a houseplant on your left? Weird intersection of hobbies I see, including myself. So yeah, we got some houseplants going on here. Let's just give the houseplants a mini look. So we got some plants over here. These are great for oxygen in the house. But we also got 2 coffee plants over here. So they don't look that great, sadly enough, these days, because I just repotted them. And I don't think they're happy with their current position, but over time, hopefully they'll become nice and plump, and this little duder will hopefully grow to become a big duder. So we'll see what happens. And Jazzy, thanks for your comments. George, thanks for your comments. Tiny, thanks for your comments. And I'll see you guys in the next stream or in the comment section or something. I'll see you guys later.